Hi there, mid laner. How you doing, man?
Good. How about you?
I'm actually really good, thank you. How are you, Jet?
I'm doing pretty good. We're just ping-ponging the interviews back and forth, and it's nice to talk to High now because we get to talk about the Battle of the Atlantic game to salvage it all for North America if you guys win. Are you going to win?
I don't know. I want to win so we can get our revenge, but Fnatic's a really good team, so we'll do our best. Hopefully we can surprise them with a win.
I mean, how much does wanting to get revenge from this set you guys played at Worlds really play into you wanting to win again in the rivalry between you two?
I mean, it's a part of wanting to win to get revenge and so that we can beat Europe as a whole, so then we don't have to deal with Reddit talking crap about NA for the entire next half year. So there's like a lot of pressure on it, but I'm trying not to think about it too much, but hopefully we'll pull it out.
Cool. So how much have you guys been preparing, given that you had a little while to kind of figure out your matchup? You're the last match of the weekend as well. It's going to be a big one for the battle. What have you guys been doing in preparation?
Right. So we've been doing a lot of scrimming, obviously, but this time around we've done a lot more analysis because last time we had a few hiccups and picks and bans. A lot of people like to point that out. So this time around we spent a lot more time on it just to figure out what we want to do. So we have a pretty good solid game plan going into it. So, yeah.
Awesome. So is, of course, the preseason patch as well. Have you guys had struggled to prepare on the patch at all? Or are you guys liking the changes and thinking it suits your style overall?
The changes out in 3.14 are interesting. It allows you to get to endgame easier because the turrets are worth less gold in the beginning. And in the case you get double killed at level 1, which happens to some teams, I don't know what teams happen to, but it's not as bad as it was before. So it's a lot more lenient if you fail at early game because you can get to end game now. So that helps us out a lot. We had a lot of issues dying at level 1 before, and we've always been a pretty good team fighting team. So if we can get to end game, we should be good to go.
Something that was interesting to me about you guys in the offseason is your acquisition of Dan Din as a coach, because he had kind of been on the outskirts of the League of Legends competitive scene for a couple years, despite being one of the first people involved with it. How's it been with Dan on Cloud9?
Right, so even though Dan has the title of a coach, he isn't necessarily the coach. He's more of like a life coach in the sense he makes sure we're healthy, we're not slacking off on our duties and our job. So he doesn't necessarily tell us how to play the game, kind of like how Alex Penn did. He was our analyst, gave us a lot of information. That's not really Dan's role. He kind of just makes sure we're healthy people, our mentality is in a good state, and that we're just doing what we should be doing. So with the addition of him, he's like a new mom, and I like him.
What's he done for you guys so far as life tips and living healthier?
He's driven us around a lot. That's really nice. He's brought us food. He helps us buy stuff. And
healthy food?
Kind of. Sometimes. As healthy as a gamer can get, I guess. But yeah, he just does a lot for us. He drives us around a lot. He did laundry for all of us one day. Wow. That was really awesome. We just gave him like 5 piles of laundry, just did it all, came back. It was all folded. Well, it wasn't folded, but it is nice enough. So yeah.
So have you guys been using all this extra practice time, given that you don't have to do dishes or laundry anymore? Has that helped you kind of streamline the schedule for practicing?
He doesn't do the dishes because he doesn't live with us. Okay. We have a Homejoy, our cleaning service people, that do that a lot for us, so that's helpful. But our daily living schedule is more or less the same as it was before. So,
cool. So I guess with all that, tomorrow's matchup versus Fnatic, how are you guys feeling in terms of picks and bans? Because one of the things that I know a lot of people have pointed out about your team is champion pools, and some stuff has changed from the preseason patch in Season 3. How are you feeling as a mid laner about 3.14?
I think we've all increased our champion pools a decent amount, player by player. We have a lot of different scenarios in the case of X happens or X is banned or picked. So we have a lot of preparation for this. And as far as mid lane for 3.14, there's been a lot of rise of Ziggs. A lot of people are liking to play that champion. He's a really good champion as well. So there are champions that became stronger, such as Ziggs, and there's champions like Ari that became weaker. So it's interesting to see like what the meta is, and it's kind of going towards a poke meta / endgame meta at the moment. So for mid laners, it's pretty interesting as assassins are kind of falling off, but yeah.
So have you got anything special prepared then in the mid lane? I know you probably can't tell us now because your game's tomorrow, but maybe?
Probably.
Okay.
How about that? That's a good answer,
that sounds
right?
good.
Probably something.
Probably.
Yeah. Also, now that you've witnessed 8 of the LCS teams, 4 from North America and 4 from Europe, that you're going to be competing against next split, do you have any thoughts of how teams have maybe moved or shaken in the offseason?
Well, as far as North America goes, I think this split will be much harder than the last split will be with the addition of EG. And I don't know if Coast or TWZ will make it in yet or Curse. But it seems that this next split will be much harder than the previous split. I really doubt we'll be able to go 25-3 again. If we could, that'd be sweet, but I highly doubt that. And as far as Europe goes, they just added a bunch of new teams, or was it 2 teams that made it in?
Yeah, we got the Copenhagen Wolves and also KMT.
Yeah, KMT looked really strong, and so did Copenhagen Wolves. So I imagine the European LCS is even going to be more chaotic than last split, where they had like 5 different teams tied for like number 1, 2, or 3. I think like all 8 teams or 7 teams will be tied now. So over in Europe, it's just going to be a crazy battle. And then America, it still might be a top 4, bottom 4 thing. Hopefully that changes, but we'll have to see.
I mean, you mentioned top 4, bottom 4. Of the teams that are looking to qualify now for the next split, have you looked at any of them and thought, wow, they look pretty good? Or are you worried or not worried about any of the teams that are looking to get promoted now?
I wouldn't say I'm necessarily worried about the new promotion teams. I think they're good. I think the team we have to worry most about is probably TSM. With the addition of Bjergsen to the mid lane, he is a really good player, and I've had my fair share of trouble against him, especially in solo queue and scrims. So I'm expecting TSM to be really good this split. And CLG has been doing actually well, even though they've got a lot of flack on Reddit. They've been performing much better than they have in the past, and if they can get their stuff together, I'm pretty sure they'll be a pretty dominant force as well, hopefully at least. So maybe it'll be the rise of CLG and TSM again. We'll have to see.
It's always interesting when we have these kind of extended breaks, but it's because I get to ask questions I wouldn't otherwise be able to ask. You mentioned Bjergsen in mid lane and how you've been struggling against him. Is there anything specific you've been able to pick up on that he does that surprised you and was able to win in the lane?
Yeah. So a lot of information I can get from his is his runes and masteries and the reasoning of why he does what. And it basically just, you play against someone, you learn why they do X and X, and if you see as a good, you copy it and learn from it and then adapt it to your own strategy. So he plays really aggressively.
Okay.
And
how does that reflect in his runes and masteries?
He runs cooldown reduction blues on Riven and no magic resistance, so that increases his damage and survivability a little bit. But it basically means he's trying to, I don't know, just kill you with Riven. And I thought that was really interesting that he doesn't go magic resistance, so I pretty much copied that and tried that out myself. I thought it was really good. So he does a lot of interesting things that I respect.
So you mentioned the European mid laner. Bjergsen now here in NA giving you trouble. You're playing Peke tomorrow up against Fnatic. How are you feeling about that matchup?
The last time I played versus Peke was at Worlds. I wasn't really too pressured in lane because he played Caston in both games, or 2 out of 3 of the games, and he ran teleport. When you have a teleport Caston, you're not really worried about dying in lane. You're worried about your teammates dying because he teleports there. So you're trying your best to pressure him down so he can't teleport. And then the second game, he played Twisted Fate versus my Fizz. That's a pretty easy matchup for Fizz, so I wasn't too worried about it. This time around, I think, depending on the champions, we probably won't kill each other. I think it'll come down to who can pressure the map more as a whole, since that's his kind of playstyle. He likes roaming around and exerting his map pressure. So I think whoever can control the mid lane will probably win the game, I think. But I don't think either of us will die in lane. It'd be cool if I could kill him, but I don't think that will happen.
Fair enough. And I guess moving back to the LCS a little bit, you guys obviously did amazingly in the NA LCS last split. How much pressure is there for you as such a dominant team to do well again and maybe even go undefeated? You know, break some more records in terms of how many wins you guys got.
While it would be really cool to go undefeated, like 28-0, I think that's near impossible with this next split coming up. As far as pressure to succeeding to do what we did last split, I don't think that's really a big deal. I think as long as we perform at the best we can, we'll be satisfied with that. As far as what the fans want, they'll understand and still root for us even if we don't do as well. So we just have to play our best and be happy with how we do, basically. So.
Yeah, and it's really tricky for you guys because you had so many expectations leading into Worlds. And honestly, the one kind of big showing you guys have had since then was at IEM Cologne, where you also struggled against a European team. Is there a mindset shift that you guys have to go through in order to compete in these events against the European teams? Because it's kind of 0-for-2 right now.
Right. So since we joined the LCS, really, we've had a lot of hype for our team. That can be a good and a bad thing, depending on how the team uses it. I try my best not to let it get to me, like the hype from the fans and the hype from whatever. As long as you don't let it get to you and just respect every team and just imagine that you're on an even playing field, you'll be okay with it. Granted, we had poor showings at Worlds and against Gambit. I don't think it was the pressure that got to us. It's just they played better that time. So.
Okay. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great to have you here. We're going to send it back.